and welcome to Avitar Face to Face. We're so glad you've joined us today. My name is Kinch-Thomas, your host, and we'd like to bring you all of the news and wonderful information about arts and culture happening in Westchester and beyond. And because we're looking at beyond today, we have with us a fabulous vocalist today. He's also an executive producer and director of GospeLive Productions and Entertainment. Welcome to the show, Maurice Lynch.
Thank you, Jewel.
Okay.
Thanks. It's nice being here.
Oh, well, it is fabulous to have you here. I mean, we go back a little ways.
Oh, yes.
Because we've actually sung in the same ensemble.
Yes.
The same choir, I should say. But you have always had a very special position and I think acknowledgement in Ebony Ecumenical Ensemble, because you've been a soloist there for a number of years.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and let me just say that your solos are always the ones that just lift the audiences up, almost out of their seats, because you have a fabulous delivery.
Oh, yeah.
And,
thank you
it's
so much.
inspired. It
oh,
truly
wow.
is.
Thank you so much.
So before we talk a little bit about your production company and what you do, I want to know a little bit about how you got started. When did you know that singing was your passion?
Oh, wow. That's a hard question. I started singing very young.
Okay.
I was young. I would, my aunts would take me to church and they would make me sing and all that sort of thing. So
they would make you sing.
It was no way out of that.
Okay.
But, and it somewhat came naturally, I would say.
Okay.
Because everybody in my family is musical.
Right.
So that was something that was a foundation. I always heard music. Everybody sang.
Right, right.
Even my sisters, my aunts, my uncles.
Musical family.
Everybody on both sides.
Okay.
On my mother's side and my father's side.
All right.
Yeah.
So you started singing in church as a little young thing,
I was
right?
very small when I started singing. That I can remember ever since I was existing, I was singing. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But then, when did you determine that you wanted to do it professionally? That this is the path that you wanted to follow?
Well, I think that I've been living in New York City for now over 20 years. I think I moved to New York City in '92.
Okay.
And
from where?
From North Carolina. From Fayetteville.
All right.
And when I moved to New York, I wanted to model first of all. Then I figured out I was too short. Everybody else was tall, and I was like, wait a minute, I can't do that. So, and then of course I got into fashion, and a buddy of mine, he heard me sing, and he says, why don't you go audition for this show? And I started doing some auditions, and I started doing touring shows, and it sort of went off from that. And then I would say traveling abroad, when I saw just how people were always touched by music, that was sort of a pastime. So I enjoyed doing that. Okay. And I was doing R&B music at the time.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Then I had a record deal with Sony Records for a while, and that was okay. And music was still something I took for granted. It just wasn't something that I just took that serious. It was like, okay, it's just music, because I'd been so accustomed to doing it.
Right.
And then when I started really like traveling and touring and doing workshops, and people were like, well, can you teach me how to sing, or can you show me how to do this? And I would be like, then it became to the forefront. This is really a gift. And when people were touched by it, or people would send me letters, and I started getting mail and fan mail, and people would reach out to me, they would email me, and that was before Facebook and all of these other social networks made it so easy. But I would get emails and letters from people who were touched by my music, and that always humbled me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at what point did you transition then from R&B? I mean, I know that that's still a part of what you do, but is your main focus, did it become gospel music after a certain while?
Well, it did. I always felt that I had some type of, as most people say, a ministry, or something. If something was there, I knew it wasn't like a pulpit sort of a thing, or that I would be in a church or per se like that.
Okay.
But I knew that through music, I touched lives, And even when we do shows,
Right.
I feel that's an appetizer to the best is yet to come. And when they're touched by the music and they want to know more, I say, now it's time for you to reach out to a church or that level of ministry.
Okay.
So, but I always like to touch lives, and I think that regardless, that's the one thing about music. I think people that don't even understand English,
Oh, yes.
they're touched by it, and it's an
Right.
emotional thing.
Yes, it is.
And even we as African Americans, it's just something that comes out of us.
Right.
And I often say that it's our ancestors singing through us.
That's beautiful.
And so I cherish it.
Okay.
And I take it very seriously, and it's special to me.
Well, you have a wonderful gift.
Thank you.
So I can understand why people would respond in the way that they do, and why their hearts would be touched by what they experience through you. So that's something you're blessed.
Wow, thank you.
Absolutely blessed. So now you toured Europe, you toured Asia. You've been so many places and have grown into your understanding of your music and what that brings and what you can do with it, to the point where you decided to create a company. This is GospeLive Productions and Entertainment. What was the reason for creating the company? You could have just continued as an individual artist, touring and doing what you were doing, right?
Yes.
Okay, so why create the company?
Well, I wanted to create something, first of all, to showcase artists.
Okay.
Because you have a lot of touring companies, a lot of touring choirs, and the singers are exploited. Their voices are exploited. Once we've used you up, we cast you aside and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And I wanted to produce a showcase for singers. And my main goal is to pick singers and showcase them and showcase their gift. So I enjoy doing that. And that was my main objective, is to, and monetarily, so that the singers can be paid what they should be paid.
Okay.
I have an issue. A lot of people make a lot of money, especially in performing arts.
Yes.
And the singers make no money.
Okay.
You're giving to charity, but your singers are charity cases. So something is wrong.
Okay.
And
so you had a mission.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you
Oh,
had a
yeah.
mission to put that company together.
Sure.
And support and nurture talent.
Oh, sure.
That
Oh,
you
yeah.
found. And,
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what was some of your criteria for selecting the talent?
My first one is I just have to enjoy listening to them sing.
Okay.
I always
All
say that. Most of the singers in my show, I just love to hear them sing.
Yes.
And when they record or the CD, I listen to my singers. And sometimes I'm on stage and I'm just in heaven because it just amazes me at what they can do. And then their spirit. I like good-spirited people, good people to travel with.
Okay.
And whenever I call, everybody for the review up, and I say, "Oh, we're going here. Who's going?" And I say, "Oh, everybody's going. Oh boy, And when they see each other, it's a lot of love, a lot of love. So that makes it special. And we all like being together. Everybody's knocking on everybody's door. We're going to eat. We're going shopping. We're going, and it's like a big clan of us, and we get together, and it's always special.
Okay.
Because a lot of times with groups, I'll see you at the show and that's it.
And that's
but
it.
We love to travel together,
Okay.
When
So you have a real family
yeah.
environment here and relationship.
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. And in doing that, I create a platform where all of my singers, I love for them to be lead singers because I love for every singer in the group to have at least a point in the show to showcase their talent. I think that's important. I think a lot of, especially growing up, being in choirs have a tendency to let a few certain select people sing, and they're generally not the most talented people in the choir. The talented people are really the ones that they overlook, and that's not a good feeling.
Okay.
So
that's
in my
interesting
show,
coming from someone who is a lead. who's a soloist
Sure.
and has, is a soloist and so many instances.
Yes, but
Okay.
in that I've seen it, and I was in a show one time. It was actually a play, and I think it was about like 7 or 8 cast members in the show, in this particular play. But everybody had a lead part in at least a song to lead in that play.
Right.
And I said, why is it everybody in this play gets along so well? And I could just never figure it out. And then one night it just hit me. I said, it's because everybody shares the spotlight.
Look at that.
And at the end of the night when we would bow for the play, it was just a warmth with everybody because everybody's talent had been showcased.
Okay.
And that was a main thing that I wanted to do with my group, was to showcase everybody, not just one, not just me. And I'm the least probably showcased person in my group because I'll tell everybody, okay, so-and-so's not here. Who wants to do this song? And they're like, well, I'm doing my, I was like, come on, who wants to? So I always have to bribe them into singing sometimes because when they get their songs or whatever, oh, I'm just going to do, my song. But, it's a good feeling. And
I can imagine. I can imagine how that would create the camaraderie and really goodwill between performers. So there's none of that, and the competition if she fails, then I'll get up there in the spotlight kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, yay! Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that into perspective. So that so there's a different paradigm there that entertainers are dealing with.
Oh yeah.
That's wonderful. So you created the company. You have now your vision and your philosophy behind this company. Then you decided to create the GospeLive Review. The Harlem GospeLive Review. Is that correct? Okay. What was the connection to Harlem?
Well, first of all, I'm from the South, but I always had family in New York City.
Okay.
And everybody, knows I'm from the South, but they don't realize that I actually have family that was from New York. And I used to have an uncle that used to sing with a group called the Harlem Gospel Quartet. It was a quartet group.
Okay.
And actually that was my focus for doing that whole Harlem gospel thing. And, that's so oversaturated. And GospeLive was a word. I used to DJ.
Okay.
And my baby
That's something
sister,
I didn't know.
Camille, I was writing something when I was DJing at a station, and I had a show called Gospel, One Word and Live. And she was very smart. She said, well, why don't you just spell it as one word? And I said, you can't. It's not spelled as one word. It's 2 words. And she said, yes, you can.
Okay.
I said, no, you can't. It's 2 words. And she took her little crayons or whatever, and she could write at a very early age, so she spelled gospel and live like I write it with the big L and everything.
Right.
And when I looked at it, I said, that's a word. You just created a word. She said, I told you. And so from then on, that word GospeLive was important. So that's why I actually named my production company GospeLive. A lot of people don't realize, and a lot of people use that word, but they're probably not familiar that my sister actually created that word. And this was in the 80s. She was young, a little tiny toddler.
Look at that.
I just started writing and everything, and she created that.
From the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we need to pay attention because there's sometimes some wisdom there, or at least some information that we can put to use if we stop for a minute and give it some credence and say, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So, Harlem GospeLive Review. Tell us about it.
It's a wonderful show.
Okay.
It's electrifying. It's spiritual. It's spirit filled. And we enjoy what we're doing, and it shows the audience is always touched. And it's a gospel review, and
that's important. Let's stay with that for a second. It's a review, which means what exactly?
Actually, a review is more of like it pulls in different genres.
Yes.
And when I just wanted it, I was like, I want to be able to pull in different things. And everybody jokes. They always say, oh, you know what? You're the Black Lawrence Welk. So, and we do so much on stage, and we're very creative.
Okay.
And The other thing with my singers, they can sing anything.
Mm.
You know, we can sing. As you mentioned, I used to sing with the Ebony Ecumenical Ensemble, and a lot of wonderful choral songs I've learned from Mrs. Forbes.
Yes.
And we sing those. We sing contemporary. We sing all types of music.
Okay, so there's some R&B in there.
Everything in there.
There's some soul. I even saw some place that mentioned maybe a little bit of rock.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
So okay, and jazz too.
Oh yeah.
Love the jazz.
Yeah. You get
okay.
Ellie Ferrer, she was like one of my first singers, and she's a jazz girl, and Sheila Slappy. They love their jazz, and they jazz up those gospel songs.
All right. We're gonna I know we have a clip, but before we do that, I do want to come back for a minute to the gospel essence that runs through all that you do, because on your site I noticed that there was a page about the history of gospel.
Oh, yes.
And you spent some time, and it was very well written and put together to give people an understanding of where the gospel comes from and why it is important, why it should be recognized as such.
Sure.
So share a little bit of that.
Well, you know, gospel music, of course, it gets almost like a little cliche story to say it came from slavery and blah, blah. But actually, gospel music, the only other thing is Native American music, is the only original folk music that's original to North America.
Okay.
The next is gospel music.
Okay.
It was created here by African American slaves.
Right.
And I think that's why it touches people so deep, because it was a voice of people. When they couldn't complain, they could moan, and they could. It was just something that you feel.
Wow.
And I think that's why that music has lived for so long.
Yes.
And I think whenever I get on a stage, I'm singing for someone who didn't have a chance to do it.
Wow.
And when I see my singers sing, I said, sometimes you're singing for a family member that wanted to do it, that never had the opportunity.
Right.
And I think gospel is a special thing. And I look at gospel music as a circle. And I've done workshops all over the world. And people everywhere now sing gospel music. And, you know, they go, oh, well, people are singing gospel all over. But gospel is a circle. It started with American slavery and African-American people that were slave descendants. And it sort of went full circle, and everybody's singing it all over the world.
Right.
But they can sing it, they can style it, but they still have to come right back to America, to those slave descendants, because it's our heartbeats. It's who we are.
That's it.
It's who we are.
And I can tell you that, I mean, I am not in a performance the way you are, but my time singing with Ebony, it is the most fulfilling and just heart expanding experience.
Yes.
And when we went to, you went with us to Korea when we went there, right? And the reception that you get from people, and this for me, it was extraordinary because I had never toured before and haven't toured since. But that's okay. That one time was enough for me to get an understanding of what transpires between the performer and the audience when the gospel fills the room. You know, so I hear what you are saying, and it resonates with me tremendously. You know what? We need to show this clip so that everybody watching can understand what we're talking about and understand what the Harlem Gospel Live Review experience is all about. Let's see it right now.
Through many days, just toss and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that's brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
if you're looking for an answer. Don't look inward, but look upward, and know that nothing is impossible. Just remember, your help was paid for over 2,000 years ago. Come on, Gospel Live, lift your voices. My help comes from the Lord.
If the Lord's been mighty good to you, you ought to. If He bless you to see another day, you ought to praise Him. Well, you ought to praise Him. Praise Him. Everybody, give Him praise. He's been good. He's been kind. Woke you up. Your right mind.
I know Him to be a shepherd that leads me through the cares of life. I know Him to be so faithful, so loving and so kind. He keeps me and protects me. He supplies my every needs. Harlem Gospel Live brings to you the style of gospel featuring the fabulous Harlem Gospel Live Review.
Wow, Maurice. I mean, just watching those clips, you can feel the energy. You can just those are fabulous performers that you have.
Oh yeah.
I can see that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I can understand why people would want you guys to come back time and time again.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
And the response that you get when you tour, I'm sure, is overwhelming.
Oh, it is. It is. And they, you know, and people just become so amazed. And everybody in my group, we love to dress up. We love to, you know, and the girls, they bring all that. And the guys, you know, we bring our tuxes and our tails. And, you know, and that was more or less somewhat of what the style of gospel was. But it was more or less the different genres of the style of gospel.
Okay.
And it's really touching the audience. You know, that's important to me.
Right.
And I might not be perfect in my spiritual life, but on stage, you know, I demand perfection. And my singers, they bring it.
They do.
You know, and generally we rehearse the show, and I'll think of a song and I want to sing it, and I'll start singing it, and I promise you, before I get half of it out, either they're singing, the musicians are behind me. It's just instantaneous, and that's a spiritual thing.
Yes.
For we as African American people, it's what we did in our churches and so forth. And you know, I had someone was telling me, they said, you know, gospel music is God's music.
Yes.
And I feel that, but I feel that African American slave descendants, we have our own delivery of it. I feel it is God's music, but our delivery of it is special to us. And you know, it's I love what I do.
You bring that specialness to the audiences.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that. I want you to tell folks the name of the website where they can get information about Gospel Live Review and where any upcoming performances might be happening.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Our website is gospellive.com.
Okay.
GospeLive.com. Just one L. GospeLive.com.
Okay, so they can go on there. They can read all about Gospel Live.
And a lot of things I don't post on the website, but to people that are members of our newsletter, I send that out to them. But a lot of it we do post on news and updates on the website.
Okay,
and,
so people should check that for upcoming events.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. And we've been so busy lately with getting music out and so forth. And my booking and touring manager and director, Alex Tercola, recently got married.
Oh,
so
lovely.
He's in the bliss of honeymoon. He and his wonderful wife Tatiana. So, you know, they travel, and you know, he still helps me quite a lot of the behind the scenes and a lot of the marketing and a lot of everything that's put out. You know, he's the head of that, and
Right.
he
So
really helps me with
there's
a lot.
partnership there. There's
Oh,
team
yeah.
effort. It
Oh, yeah.
all yes.
And you know, I have a wonderful team that helps me with all of my media and interactive things. Mark Lundy,
Okay.
and I have just a wonderful line of producers that help me.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Let me ask you. I mean, I know you've got a couple of CDs.
Yes.
That are out right now, and you just completed a CD called
The new release this month.
The
Oh,
New
Happy
Release,
Day.
Yes, Oh Happy Day.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Now that's something that people will be very familiar with.
Of course.
But the arrangement probably not.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know, I went in. I wanted to do a new arrangement of it, and it's such a world iconic anthem.
Yes.
Gospel anthem, and everywhere we sing, I just tell people every time we do a show, you know, I won't have it on the list, and they'll say, "Oh, but you've got to do Oh Happy Day," and
Fantastic.
so we always have to put Oh Happy Day in.
Okay.
And Dawn Tallman, who sings house gospel, she's a Billboard charting artist. She's doing the lead on that with
okay.
myself, and we did a great job on that. And it's two versions. You have the original version and the house gospel remix of that.
Okay. So people can get that on your website too.
Oh, sure, yes.
Maurice, it has been fabulous having you here.
It's been so nice
love
being here with
to
you, Jo.
hear about your work and what you're
Thank
doing,
you.
and folks should absolutely take a moment to check out Harlem Gospel Live and Harlem Gospel Live Review
Yes.
anytime they see that group performing anywhere. Thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
so much for being
And
part of the
thank
show.
you for having me too. All
Okay.
right, thank you so much.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you for being part of our episode today, and we hope you enjoyed and will listen to some of this wonderful music that you've heard, and we'll see you again the next time. Take care.